messages to all them asking. I didn't get responses from all of them immediately, so of course you worry.
The mall shooting in Maryland, the ELN connection.
So it's perfectly possible that in time we'll find that there are actually more problems with it than we realize.
The president says it's no worse than alcohol. But do ELN students agree?
Tonight on ELN Local News. Hello and welcome to ELN Local News. I'm Carly Hilliard.
And I'm Meredith Stutz. We've been working hard all week to bring you the latest news.
Right now, the campus community is gathering in McKinnon Hall for a panel discussion on poverty. Our Alex Rose is in the studio with more. Alex?
In his State of the Union address in 2012, President Obama called income inequality the defining issue of our time. And even though government aid is available through programs like food stamps, the poverty rate has flatlined at 15% over the past 2 years, according to the United States Census Bureau. North Carolina sinks lower than the national average at 16.5% of the population below the poverty level. And Alamance County is even worse at 17%. Tonight in McKinnon Hall, ELN is hosting a panel discussing the main causes of poverty in Alamance County and across the nation. I spoke with campus conversation organizer, Professor Tom Arcaro.
This is a very unique and rare opportunity for our students to interact with typical Burlington people on an issue that is mutually very important.
On top of sharing stories of hardship, Arcaro says the community panelists hope to analyze the causes of poverty.
Which is personal problems. I'm lazy, I'm stupid, I'm whatever. Right, and then there are social, kind of structural kinds of factors. It's an interplay between those, certainly, and what you just described is which is the major emphasis.
ELN Local News will be live at the panel starting at 6:50 tonight on Channel 5. Until then, I'm Alex Rose. Carly, Meredith, back to you.
And our Jasmine Turner is in McKinnon right now. Jasmine, what can we expect in the next hour?
I'm in McKinnon Hall, where in an hour the community connection discussion on poverty will begin. There will be panelists ranging from experts on the issue of poverty to citizens of Burlington. This public forum is designed to get people about a very important question. Has the war on poverty
But there's one ELN student whose money problems were fixed today. Senior Gabriel Noble received more than $7,500 from ELN today after a successful campaign by his friends.
Was my smile awkward at the end?
Noble found himself 8 credits shy of graduation and out of funds. Both of his parents are Marines and couldn't come up with the money. But his friends stepped up and reached out to the community. More than 1,200 people signed the online petition asking the school to help Noble. And ELN answered. The school granted him admission and the funds to graduate next semester. Noble says that he hopes this inspires the university to look more into helping people who need aid.
Noble isn't the only student having trouble with finances at ELN. In fact, ELN's tuition has gone up more than $10,000 in the past 4 years, and it isn't getting any cheaper. Financial planning says even though student loans are piling up, the school can't afford to charge less. Some students will find themselves thousands of dollars in debt after graduation. Money that needs to start being paid back, sometimes with interest, 6 months after graduation.
And I think that institutions, universities are going to get more creative in how they offer their 4-year experience and give students more paths to finish it, and so that students can pick the one that makes the most sense for them.
And if, like many students, you'll be paying off student loans, here are some ways to save money while you're still at school. Our Ashley McGettrick is here with this week's College Consumer.
Let's talk about technology. Before your technology makes you run crying to the Genius Bar, you should know when you can fix it and when you should just mix it. First, every student's technology nightmare, having your hard drive crash. A temporary solution could be right in your kitchen. Before you pay for recovery programs to get your files back, try popping your hard drive in the freezer overnight. Make sure it's in a sealed bag to avoid condensation. The cold temperatures will cause the parts to retract, and your hard drive could get up and running just long enough to retrieve your data. Next, if you're too cool for an OtterBox, chances are you've had a cracked phone screen before. This could be an easy DIY project depending on the damage. If you've cracked the back of your phone screen, it's a definite fix it. You can find replacements on websites like Amazon that come with video tutorials. But if you happen to crack the front of your screen, then it might not be as easy. You could be dealing with as many as 30 teeny tiny little screws. In this case, it's definitely worth paying for an expert to repair it. But if you've only scratched your screen, another easy fix. A little dab of toothpaste on a washcloth will buff out minor scratches on glass screens. Lastly, one of the most daunting questions when you're buying new technology: should you get the extended warranty? Consider this. The average price of a warranty is $136. The average price of a repair is $152. A smarter investment could be buying antivirus software and a really protective case. For more technology tips, visit ELNlocalnews.com.
Shoppers are returning to the Maryland Mall today, where a gunman opened fire this weekend. 2 people were killed in the Columbia Mall, located between Washington and Baltimore. Our Bella Mazzola spoke with 2 students who have personal ties to the mall and the shooting.
222 ELN students are from the Baltimore-Washington area.
Why didn't we just...
Senior Nick Kurtz grew up going to the mall.
It didn't happen in a remote location. It didn't happen in a movie theater where it was all 18 and older people. It happened really close to not just kids and their mothers, but a place where I was a kid and I hung out all the time.
ELN freshman Marshall Brown's father and brother were at the mall when the shooting happened.
He told me there were people that were just running across saying, "Help, he's got a gun, call 911.
According to the Columbia Police Department, the shooter was carrying a backpack containing 2 homemade bombs in addition to the shotgun he used. The Columbia, Maryland area has a reputation for being safe.
It's a really, really nice area. I mean, Ellicott City, Columbia got voted like #2 most favorable places to live by Forbes a couple years ago. It's a really low crime area.
There is now a memorial pool in the center of the mall. Customers are asked to float flowers in memory of the victims. Bella Mazzola, ELN Local News.
Here with us to discuss how social media plays a key role in emergency situations such as the Columbia Mall shooting is ELN professor Dr. Naima Clark. Dr. Clark, thanks for joining us today. So how does social media play a crucial role in emergency situations like this weekend's mall shooting?
Well, I think that in this case, because there were so many young people at the mall, they were able to tweet and tell people it's not safe to be here right now. Also, if people want to get in touch with their loved ones, social media is a great way to do it. You don't have to necessarily call on the phone if you're trying to hide and you don't want people to hear you. So you can tweet, or you could go on Facebook or use any other sort of social media available.
And how has social media response in situations like this changed over time?
Well, you know what actually has happened, which is good and bad, is that anyone can be a journalist. Anyone can be a reporter. But the bad part is anyone can be a reporter. And so, you know, we want to make sure that good information is getting out, but we also want to make sure that true information is getting out quickly. And so because of social media and people are getting more and more comfortable with it, it's making it easier for people to send information, but sometimes that information isn't correct.
So in your view, what would be the most effective form of social media?
Well, you know, it changes all the time. You guys know because you use social media all the time. I am old school, and so I would probably use Facebook. But you all might be on Twitter, you might be on Instagram sending a photo of what's going on. It just sort of depends on what you're using and also where you can reach your loved ones the fastest.
And I like that Facebook is considered old school now.
I know.
Dr. Clark, thank you so much for being with us today on the show.
It's my pleasure, thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Coming up,
we take a look at the epidemic sweeping the nation, the flu.
Coming up next, find out how flipping a pancake can lead to chasing dreams.
20-degree weather doesn't keep the track team from training.
today was warmer, but imagine running into the polar vortex. Our Michelle Alfini catches up with the track team. Coming up.
Imagine one injury putting you out of contact sports for the rest of your life. I spoke with a student who's one blow away from getting benched.
One moment you're caught up in a play.
The next, you wake up on the ground. This was freshman Dara O'Flaherty's experience after she suffered 2 concussions from high school soccer.
When you play in the competitive sports world, you just are pretty used to concussions. Like, they're really common. Most of my friends have come into contact with concussions one way or another.
O'Flaherty gave up soccer for club rugby at ELN, but her doctor warned her if she gets one more concussion, she'll be out of sports for good.
The idea of not being able to be active is definitely a scary thought, and having something preventing you from doing the things you just like to do in your free time, it's totally scary. That being said, you can't really let it affect the way you play.
Dr. Eric Hall leads research on concussions at ELN. He says O'Flaherty's situation is not uncommon for an athlete. There's no rule of thumb for how many concussions can end a sports career. It's about recovery time.
If you start taking longer to recover from a concussion, that's usually a sign that there might be some detriment, some maybe long-term implications, and that might be when you start considering maybe retiring from the sport.
Hall says it's important to see a doctor even if you only suspect you may have a concussion. Here's what to look out for. Symptoms like headaches, sensitivity to light and noise, and nausea are all common. Trouble focusing and becoming overly emotional can even be indicators.
When you've seen one concussion, you've seen one concussion. That there's no similarities between concussions from one to another as far as treatment and how quickly somebody will respond to it.
But O'Flaherty won't let fear of another injury stop her.
There's just something to be said about not being timid and going out there and giving it your all, and if something happens, you know, it's not really your fault. It happens sometimes.
Hall's research focuses on varsity athletes. They take a cognitive test when they first get to ELN that's re-administered if they suspect they have a concussion. Both Hall and O'Flaherty agreed they'd like to see the project expand to include club athletes as well. Students were splashing in Lake Mary Nell. While this tradition ended 2 years ago, one lake-related tradition remains: environmental testing. As environmental studies students know, these lakes contain a fair amount of bacteria, such as E. coli, as well as fecal matter from ducks and geese. Director of Landscaping Tom Flood says these aren't the only things found in Lake Mary Nell.
Students have been known to throw bicycles, computers, couches, and other objects down into the lake, which we never know are there until the water levels fall really low.
Well, the legalization of marijuana has people talking all across the country, even from an unlikely source. Courtney Davis has the story.
President Obama is back in the headlines this week for talking about marijuana. He is quoted in The New Yorker as saying he smoked the drug when he was young and said it was similar to smoking cigarettes. He also said, quote, "I don't think it's more dangerous than alcohol," end quote. But university physician Dr. Jeanette Archinal does not think that either drug is safer than the other.
Marijuana these days is much, much stronger than the marijuana of the 1970s and 1960s. So it's perfectly possible that in time we'll find that there are actually more problems with it than we realize.
According to the town of ELN Police Department, in 2013, 31 arrests were made for drug violations, while only 2 were arrested for liquor law violations. Even with this knowledge, some students still argue alcohol is more harmful than marijuana. One student who wished to stay anonymous for the interview told us why he thinks it's less dangerous.
If me and my friends smoke a couple joints and go out, the last thing we're going to do is anything that will get us noticed in some way.
Resident assistant Allie Kornacki disagrees with this student. In her opinion, marijuana is more dangerous simply because it is illegal.
Because it's still a rule that you still have to abide regardless of the consequences and regardless of what it actually does to your body.
But that doesn't keep the drug away from campus.
This is an epicenter of experimenting, you know? I mean, if you really look hard enough, you're going to find pretty much anything you want.
Although this student realizes that drugs may be prevalent on campus, he also knows that according to university policy, marijuana is not allowed.
This is a private institution, you know, they make the rules they want to. Maybe in the future, if there is some sort of concrete change in the laws, they could reconsider. But as of right now, I mean, ELN, it's their house, it's their rules.
If you would like to report the use of marijuana on campus, you can call Campus Safety and Police at 336-278-5555. Courtney Davis, ELN Local News.
Many students are struggling right now with flu symptoms. 5 people died from the flu epidemic in North Carolina as of this weekend, including the first confirmed death of a child. Most reported deaths have been people between 25 and 49 or over 65, and only 1 death of a child under 4. More than 34 flu-related deaths have been recorded since the end of November, according to the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. Influenza hit the hardest this month with 22 deaths. Doctors say they can't stress enough to take precautions. Wash hands often with soap and water and get a flu shot, which they say has a 60 to 70% success rate of preventing the virus.
It's no surprise that the weather plays a big factor in students' health. Here with the Phoenix 5-day forecast is our Brennan McGovern.
Thanks, Meredith. This week the weather started warm and will end warm. We actually saw some people in shorts today heading off to class as temperature was in the high 50s, and we have some more warm weather expected this weekend. However, we do have some cold weather to get through on the way. Let's take a look at our 5-day forecast. Today's temps might be hard to remember by tomorrow. With a low of 18 degrees tonight and a high of 30, it is going to be cold. And students going home for break might want to consider leaving a little later Wednesday morning. The Weather Channel reports a 60% chance of snow tomorrow night. Those cold temperatures will stay consistent through Thursday, when temperatures will increase to the low 40s. That warming trend will continue through the weekend. Friday and Saturday could see temperatures around 60 degrees with a slight chance of rain on Saturday. But don't worry, Super Bowl Sunday looks like it's going to be a nice day for a pickup game outside and maybe a party later to watch the big game, sunny with a high of 56 degrees. That's the weather for this week. For Elon Local News, I'm Brennan McGovern. Back to Carly and Meredith in the studio.
Thanks, Brennan. Now, while cold weather keeps most people inside, the Elon women's track team braves the chill almost every day. Michelle Alfini has the story.
When you think of winter sports, track usually isn't the first thing that comes to your mind. But this season, the Elon women's track team is outside 5 days a week.
I've done workouts in the pouring rain when it's like really cold out, so regardless of the weather.
This is Allison Orum's 4th year on the track team, and she says every year it's been the same. 3 days a week, they're running rain or shine, and the other 2 days, they're conditioning, no matter what.
Like today, it was really cold, so I had to make sure that I do a really good job on my warm-up.
Warming up is important when working out in cold weather, but so is dressing properly. Your first layer should be a material that pulls sweat away from the skin, while your second layer should be waterproof to keep cold and moisture out and heat in. It's also important to keep your hands covered.
You just have to think, like, just focus on your workout, focus on each lap, and not worry about the weather or anything. Just really stay focused.
While cold weather exercise is not ideal, Oram says the team's outdoor workouts keep them prepared.
Practicing in this cold weather during the winter definitely prepares you for outdoor track and makes you stronger, a stronger runner. So all this practicing, and people think we're crazy because we run outside in the cold, it really does help for outdoor track.
Braving freezing weather to run isn't for everyone, but for Oram, it's just another day.
I couldn't imagine any year without running, any day without running, so that's what has kept me through it for so long and will keep me through it for the rest of my life.
Michelle Alfini, Elon Local News.
One step at a time. Teaching students to follow their dreams is one thing, showing them how it's done is another. Our Mackenzie Roberts has the story.
It's one of those things that you dream about, but you just are like, no, that kind of stuff just doesn't happen to everyday people like me.
That's what Lene Bethany Kuhn thought before she sent in her application to be a contestant on NBC's The Voice. When her best friend insisted she audition, Kuhn still thought it was too good to be true.
I was like, well, got accepted, ha ha ha, and she's like, we're doing it, we're going.
A 6th grade teacher at Woodlawn Middle School, Kuhn says she doesn't have a lot of spare money lying around to pay for the trip. After singing at their karaoke nights, Kuhn reached out to Applebee's to help her raise funds.
It's just been an amazing feeling to feel like you are supported by your community.
And Kuhn says the parents of her students have been more encouraging than she could have imagined.
You're inspiring our kids to look for their own dreams and to pursue them at all costs. And it doesn't have to be in middle school. It doesn't have to be in high school. It can be when you're a grown-up. You can still follow your dreams. You don't have to conquer the world today.
As Lene Bethany gets ready to head off to Nashville for The Voice,
I got my ticket for the long way ride, 2 bottle whiskey for the way, and I sure would like some sweet company.
and she's leaving on Thursday. What do you say?
Although music is what brings joy to Kuhn's life, it also serves a higher purpose, easing her anxiety and giving her the courage to push herself.
I can overcome this, and that I have a community that's behind me, and that I have friends and family who love me no matter what, and it's just taking this step and just going for it.
As far as preparation and nerves go, Kuhn is playing it cool. Her audition is this Saturday, and thanks to the pancake breakfast, $1,200 was raised for the trip. Mackenzie Roberts, ELN Local News.
And we're wishing her all the best. For more information on Lene Bethany and her journey to The Voice, keep checking our website at elonlocalnews.com.
This weekend, the ELN Jazz Ensemble stomped, hopped, and toe-tapped in front of crowds in McKinnon Hall to end their tapped-out winter term class. The group performed both student and faculty choreographed numbers that resulted in 4 shows, ranging from pop to funk. This year marked the 9th year of the class. Senior Julie Crothers serves as the co-assistant director and says that Tapped Out bridges the gap between the general public and the performing arts community.
Unlike many other dance concerts at ELN, Tapped Out is more casual. It's very upbeat, it's very entertaining, it's very rhythmic, it's very different than anything else you'll ever see here.
Men's and women's tennis teams get invited to a national tournament. Find out how they fared next in sports. The ELN men's basketball team entered this season with sky-high expectations. Many picked ELN as favorites to win the Southern Conference and potentially stir things up come March. However, 2 crucial losses this week leaves ELN sitting with a sub-500 record. They will next take on a conference opponent next Monday. It's not often that ELN faces a team from the BCS conference. However, the women's tennis team made a weekend out of it. The ELN women's tennis team spent the weekend in Athens, Georgia for the 2014 ITA kickoff weekend. The team left on Thursday for a short walkthrough at the Dan McGill Tennis Complex on the University of Georgia's campus. After opening up the season against 54th-ranked Virginia Tech and 3rd-ranked North Carolina, it didn't get any easier for the Phoenix. ELN played home team in 4th-ranked Georgia on Friday, and despite the loss, ELN embraced the opportunity.
To know that you're playing the best of the best, there is nothing like it, and the opportunities don't come every so often, so when you have the chance to go out there and take it to them, it's really fun.
Saturday, ELN battled 55th-ranked Kansas State. And after 5 hours of hard hitting, ELN came up points short of the upset. Despite the 2 losses on the weekend, Coach Anderson believes her team learned a lot.
To play against Georgia, who's one of the top teams in the country, and also Kansas State, and to be able to have those opportunities was tremendous for our team.
The ITA kickoff weekend is made up of 60 of the top women's tennis teams from across the country. This marks the first time in ELN program history that their women's tennis team was invited to such a prestigious tournament.
You know, it's a good gauge to see where you are compared to the best, and it's a confidence builder too, because you know, if you can compete with them, you can compete with anyone.
ELN was the only Southern Conference team to compete in the ITA kickoff weekend, and Coach Anderson hopes her team bottles up these experiences for Southern Conference play.
I think we gained tremendous experience that will help us. The format was similar to a conference tournament at an extremely high level, and so that was really good for us.
Now the ELN women's tennis team will return home for their opening home match of the year against North Carolina Central on February 8th. In Athens, Georgia, Rajat Agrawal, Elon, Local News. The men's tennis team also competed in the ITA kickoff this weekend. They were in Virginia and faced the #1 Cavaliers. They did lose that match, but bounced back to defeat Southern Conference foe Samford in a rematch of last year's SoCon tournament final. That's all for sports this week, but many exciting games approaching. Women's basketball at Wofford tonight. Tip-off is set for 7 p.m. February 7th, a special day for Elon Athletics. Women's lacrosse will play the first ever Division I lacrosse game in Elon history at Duke. February 14th, Coach Mike Kennedy and the baseball team will begin their quest to repeat as Southern Conference champions as they welcome Cincinnati to Latham Park. And of course, this Sunday in New York, Super Bowl 48 between the Denver Broncos and Seattle Seahawks. That is sure to be a fun one. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at ELN Sports and visit us online at elonlocalnews.com. Meredith and Carly, back to you.
That's all we have for you this week.
For more information on any of the stories you watched tonight, check our website at elonlocalnews.com.
And like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Elon Local News. Have a great weekend, Elon. Good job.